Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're all having a lovely day. So, another day, another news article about another form of COVID. So, the original news that I was hearing about some new variant was in November, and by December, about 2/3 of my staff had tested positive. This is really concerning because when original COVID came out, there were 2 people at work that got it. And when Delta came out, I don't know anybody that got it. And then when Omicron came out, within a month, 8 out of 12 people that work here tested positive, all within days of one another. So this is considerably more transmissible than the older variants. And it looks like there is a new variant based on this, or a subvariant, that according to this study that was done in Denmark is 33% more likely to affect others, and it also is a little bit better at evading the vaccine in terms of infecting you. So this is concerning when you get to a point where it is this transmissible. Now, a lot of people have said, well, it's less likely to kill you, it is less severe than other variants, it is just the flu, and blah, 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 blah. And again, it's not just the flu if you look at the numbers. But one of the concerning things when you have a variant that is this much more transmissible, when you just look at the case numbers over here, like original COVID was here, second COVID here, third COVID here, and Omicron over here. So even if it is less damaging to you, if it is less fatal, when you have 10 times as many people getting it than over here, because again, in the winter of 2020 wave, you had like 4,000 cases a day versus 40,000 cases a day here, the death rate winds up being actually sadly similar. So this is just for New York City. So as you can see, we had more deaths during the Omicron wave so far, per day. It's not over yet, but you could see the hump is larger than it was during the winter of 2020 wave over here, even though we have vaccines available now because so many more people are getting it. Now, a good thing is that with vaccines available, you could see from the data over here, the deaths is vastly lower in vaccinated people versus unvaccinated people per 100,000. The hospitalizations are down, depending on when you're looking, by a factor of 10 or a factor of 20 in vaccinated people versus unvaccinated people. The number of cases is down by a factor of 10 to a factor of 20, depending on when you're looking. Actually, closer to like a factor of 5 to a factor of 20, depending on where you're looking, from vaccinated people versus unvaccinated people. So that's all good stuff. But when you're looking at this sheer number of cases, it is going to start causing problems for society, even in parts that are actually fully vaccinated. So one of the things that I went over in this video, where I'm just walking around New York and showing you a bunch of different businesses in the beginning of January, is you had a lot of stores with signs like this. So over here on the right, it has a sign that says you must be vaccinated to enter the business. They are going to be checking your vaccine card to enter the business. So you must be vaccinated to enter. And there was another sign around here that said you had to wear a mask. And on the left, it says we are closed due to Omicron spread. I've spoken to many business owners where in like these densely populated areas of New York City where they have no ability to open because everybody is sick at the same time. And this is one of those things that bothers me when people say that COVID is, quote, just the flu. I've had flu season at my store for many, many years. Usually, like 2 people will get sick in the beginning of December, and then, at the end of December, another 1 person will get sick, and then the beginning of January, another 1 person will get sick, and that's staggered. But that's considerably different than Omicron, where even if everybody gets it, and since everybody is young and everybody's vaccinated, they're just fine. If everybody gets just sick enough that, they're not sick enough to go to a hospital, they're not sick enough to feel like, oh my God, I'm going to die, but they're sick enough to say, I can't go to work, what does that mean for the overall economy when everybody gets sick at the same time? And the question that I would have for you is, do you have a business that can run if 2/3 or 3/4 of your staff gets sick? If you have a company of 10,000 people, and when flu season comes around, 100 or 200 or 300 are sick this week, and then a few weeks later, another 100 are sick, you can kind of deal with that differently than you can if you have a company of 10,000 people and 8,000 people get sick enough that they're like, I can't focus, I'm groggy, I can't work, I can't lift anything. They're not sick enough to be dead, they're not sick enough to go to a hospital, they're just sick enough to not go to work. What effect does that have on your company? What effect does that have on the overall society? When we are dealing with near double-digit rates of inflation, this is something that, one of the things that's going to contribute to that are people not producing, people not doing productive work to create the products or services that it is that we consume. How is that going to be contributed to by a variant that, again, it doesn't kill you, it doesn't kill most people, but it takes this number of people and puts them out to the point where they just feel like, I can't go to work because I feel like complete and utter dog shit. And that's where I come at this. That's where my concern is here. Again, as somebody who got vaccinated, who encourages others to talk to their doctor about getting vaccinated, when I look at graphs like this, when I look at charts like this, I'm personally, I have zero concern about potentially going to the hospital or potentially dying. Again, I'm young, I'm healthy, I run, I lift weights, I eat healthy, I exercise as often as I can, I take care of myself, and I got the first 2 doses. So again, when I look at something like this, that's really not where my concern lies. My concern lies with what is it like for society when almost every single business winds up putting a sign like this on their store, and what is it going to be like if this happens every couple of months? Because you have to keep in mind, the news about Omicron only really started reaching critical mass in November, and then by December, you had businesses putting up signs like this where they had to be closed because they had nobody that was able to work there. And if we're seeing news like this in the beginning or the end of January, beginning of February, how is this going to be like if this never ends? What is it going to be like if essentially every 2 to 3 months, large swaths of the population get sick enough that they all can't go to work at the same time? And are we prepared for that as a society? What do we do to counter this? Again, do we start doing more cross-training? Do we start stocking up more on things? We've had this mindset for the past 20 to 30 years with really lean supply chains where you will be able to have, better cash flow and more cash on hand if you are able to have a leaner supply chain where you have exactly what it is you need to produce what it is you want to produce. But how do you deal with that in an environment where you just can't produce things on demand, where you kind of lose that thing that we've all taken for granted, which is everything is just going to be available on demand if we need it. We'll be able to increase capacity just like that if we need it versus come back in 2 weeks because we have no production capacity right now. And I'm very curious to see how this is going to manifest itself going forward. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you do have a business, what are you doing to prepare for the eventuality that this may reach your company? Do you have people that are cross-trained so that if only 25% of your workforce is there, rather than close, you're able to run, you simply tell customers, listen, instead of the turnaround time being 2 to 5 days, it's closer to 10 to 20, but at least we're still able to be in business versus we're just shutting down entirely. I'm curious to hear from both normal people, but more interested in hearing from business owners on what they think of this and what this means for them going forward. That's it for today. And as always, hope you learned something.